Kia ora koutou, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we'll look at a concept in Vernon called procedural control. An object record or activity record can have a procedural status that indicates its legal or current status. These statuses are like the life cycle of an object or activity within your institution. These statuses are authority terms in the associated procedural status file. Each term is a record, and procedural control manages the order of your procedural status terms and any actions, reports, tasks, or messages associated with a status. So a common procedural flow is that an object record begins as a considered item, becomes accessioned when it's part of your collection, and then becomes deaccessioned if it ends up no longer being part of the collection. So let's take a closer look at an example in the object file. So here we have a status considered item, and we've marked it as a starting status. That means it's available for new object records. From there's two possible statuses that we've defined. The object record could be rejected as a considered item, or it could then become accessioned. Accessioned is also a starting status, so that means that new object records can immediately be made accessioned. They don't have to be a considered item first, they can just be made accessioned. We also have some required fields in order to save a record with this status: accession number and name title. From there, an accessioned record can become deaccessioned. So let's look at a more complex example in the inward loan file, which is part of the activities module. We're starting off with a status called loan proposed, and it has some required fields. So in order for a user, a cataloger, to enter this into the system and save it with the status of loan proposed, they must enter information in the lender, loan type, purpose, start date, and end date fields. From there, the proposed loan could be internally rejected, and it could be cancelled, or it could be approved. If the record is saved with an approved status, some automated reports will run as soon as it's saved with that status: an inward loan agreement and an object schedule. These are two word merge report templates that we've created and saved in the system, and they'll run immediately with the data from the inward loan file and the object records. From there, the inward loan record could still be cancelled, or it could be agreed by the lender. From there, again, it could still be cancelled, or we move into receiving the objects. We've got two statuses there. One, objects partially received, which can then move to objects fully received, or if you receive all of the objects at once, you can just change the status from agreed by lender to objects fully received. So the loan is now in place. From objects fully received, we can move to returning the objects, partially returning them and then changing it to fully returned, or if they're returned all at once, changing it to objects fully returned. But we could also propose to renew the loan. That proposal could be rejected, or it could be approved. If the renewal is internally approved, it still may be declined by the lender, or a renewal loan could be generated. And if this status is chosen, then Vernon will automatically create a new inward loan record that is different to the old one, but it copies over the key data. So now we have a new loan record with that key data copied over, and from there we can go back into the flow of returning the objects or proposing another renewal. So let's have a look in Vernon at how these concepts work. This is our Vernon CMS demonstration system, which has a variety of example records. Here we have a new blank object record. If I click into the procedural status field and click options, the authority options window says that 5 of 7 terms are available. So the 2 terms that aren't available are that rejected status and the deaccession status. And that's because we've used procedural control to specify that records must have the considered item status first before the rejected status is available, and the accession status first before the deaccession status is available. In most authority fields in Vernon, you can click into the field and then click the Go To button on the toolbar to open the related authority file. So here's an example with the object type field and its related object type file. However, you can't do this with the procedural status field. So if you click into the procedural status field, you'll notice that the Go To button is disabled. And that's because the terms in the procedural status file, they require careful thought and planning. So we don't want that file to be casually accessed. You can open the procedural status file through the database menu. You can go to Database, Other Files, and then in the Other field, you can search for Status, and a list of all the available procedural status fields will be listed. So we have all the ones from the Activities module and the object file, which is here. So I can open the object procedural status file. Now that I've got that file window open, I can click Advanced on the toolbar to bring up a list of the available statuses. So here we have them all: rejected, accessory, accessioned, considered item, deaccessioned, inward loan, and series. And I'm going to open two of those, considered item and accessioned. And these just open in a browse list like any other record in a file in Vernon. So let's look at the various tabs and fields in the procedural status file window. We've got the name here. This is where we're naming the term. Under procedure, we have a few checkboxes available. This is a starting status in the procedure. If this is checked, then the procedural status is available when creating new records, as we saw it is for the considered item status. This is a cancellation status. If this is checked, it indicates a procedural status where the object or activity process has been cancelled. The system will then list any tasks associated with that record, and you've got the option to cancel any of them. This is a completion status. If this is checked, it indicates a procedural status that is at the end of the procedure, and that makes objects in an activity record available for other activities to use. For example, once an exhibition venue record has a closed status, the associated objects can be used in another exhibition. This status can be repeated. If this is checked, the procedural status can be used more than once in a record's life cycle. Protect records when they reach this status. If this is checked, records with this procedural status cannot be updated or changed. Below that, we have the next status fields. So in next status, I've got two statuses that would follow on from considered item: accessioned and rejected. Let's look at the Rules Actions tab. So here we can set prerequisites, such as fields to be completed and tasks to be actioned before a record can be saved with this particular status. We can choose actions that should be triggered when a record is saved with this status. For example, when an inward loan record is saved with the status Objects Fully Received, the bulk move tool will open with the list of objects. Tasks to do are tasks that should be scheduled when a record is saved with this status. And on the Reports tab, you can automatically generate reports when a record is saved with this status by entering a saved report template in this field. So let's look at how we can set a condition that a certain field must be completed. And we'll do this on the accessioned record. On the Rules Actions tab, we can set those conditions, such as required fields. Required fields in procedural control are different to mandatory fields. So when you set a mandatory field in the customized configuration window, that field must be completed regardless of the procedural status. So that's under System Maintenance, Customized Configuration. So on the System tab, you can specify certain fields that must be completed in an object record, such as the department field or the name title field. Those fields are required regardless of the procedural status. Procedural control allows you to be more specific and say that a field is required only when saving with a certain status. So for the accession status, let's say that the accession date field must be completed. I'll click into the condition to check field and click Go To on the toolbar to open a new condition record. So here we are in Object Status Condition Rules. I'll give this condition a name. Accession date not entered. So that's the condition that I'm checking for. The field to be checked is accession date. The comparison, we have a list of options here where we can say whether it's equal to or not equal to. In this case, I'm going to choose equals. And in the pattern field, I'm going to leave that blank. So what I'm saying is we're checking if the accession date field is blank. Now I can save that and close out of that window, and I've got my condition to check there. So if the condition date is not entered, the effect that it will have, I can either choose to warn the user, which they can ignore and save the record anyway, or I can prevent save. So prevent save means that they have to enter the accession date. So now I will save the accession status and we can test this rule. I'll just reopen the object identification window and I'm going to create a new object record. So I'm going to say it's accessioned. I won't enter anything there and I'll give it a name and now I'll save it. So the procedural control check has happened and it's saying an error assigning this status that the accession date must not equal blank and the record will not be saved. So now I have to enter an accession date. I might enter T for today or Y for yesterday, and it'll enter yesterday's date, and I can now save the record. So let's look at an example of automated reports that have been set up in the system. So I'm going to use the database menu and I'm going to open the inward loan procedural status. So I'll search for status and it's the inward loan procedural status file that I want to open. Now I've got the inward loan procedural status file window open and I can use the advanced button on the toolbar to choose the statuses that I want to open. And in this case, I'm going to choose loan proposed and loan approved. I'm just going to show you what's in there. So on the loan proposed record, we can see that a next status is loan approved. So for an inward loan record that has a loan proposed status, I can change that to loan approved. Let's look at the loan approved status. On the reports tab, we've got two report templates that are entered there. So these are report templates that we've saved in Portfolio. They are word merge reports. So any inward loan record that is saved with the loan approved status, these reports will automatically run with the data from that record. So let's open the inward loan file. And I'm going to look up a particular inward loan record. And we can see that the status is loan proposed. I'm going to change that to loan approved and some reports will run. So I'll save that and Word will open with the inward loan agreement populated with the data from the inward loan record and an associated object schedule, which lists the objects that are associated with that inward loan record. So now let's look at some examples of procedural actions in the system. I'll open another inward loan. So this inward loan, the status is agreed by lender. When I change it to objects fully received, the bulk move tool will automatically open with a list of the objects. So I'll change that to objects fully received. I'll save that. I've got a custom message in there, and the bulk move is going to open. So here we have the bulk move tool. If this inward loan had multiple objects associated, they would all be listed there, and then I can enter the new location details and click OK to move all of them at once. We'll look at an example in the condition report file. So this condition report is approved by the registrar. The condition report has been done. So now I'll mark it as completed. And when I save that, the message comes up asking if I want to raise a treatment record for the objects. I'll say yes, and a treatment record will open automatically with the objects linked. I'll open the outward loan file, and I'll look up particular outward loan. So for this outward loan, it says request approved, and I'm going to change it to agreement signed, and it's going to generate an email. So I'll save that. And in Outlook, it's automatically generated a custom email where I've specified in Vernon what the subject line would be, the text of the email, and then it's automatically inserted the details of the object that's associated with that outward loan. And if there was more than one object, it would list all of them there. We can also write custom code that will trigger whenever a record is written. So some recent examples that we've done for clients include warning users if there's another deaccession activity in progress, which includes the same object, and warning users if the text in a specific field is too long. You can update a group of records to a new procedural status with our bulk tool. So under the Tools menu, we have Bulk Procedural Control Status Update. Due to the nature of bulk data updates, some of the functionality that would usually be associated with a change in procedural status will not work with the bulk tool. So this means that you need to decide if it's appropriate to use it. So the bulk tool will check for repeating statuses and disallow them if specified. It will check if the record or field is protected and disallow updates, and it will disallow invalid next statuses. But it will not apply conditions such as required fields, and it won't invoke any actions. So the tool is quite useful if you need to assign a new procedural status to a group of records, but you want to bypass all the conditions, actions, and tasks that are associated with that status. You might need to do this when you're dealing with legacy data that doesn't comply with your new standards and procedures. The bulk tool is also useful when you're working with simple statuses that don't have any conditions, actions, or tasks associated with them. You may not wish to use this tool when you're working with complex statuses and you don't want to bypass all of those various conditions, actions, or tasks. If this is the case, you can create a list of all the records you need to update and then save each record at its new status, and the system will then prompt you through all the various steps for each record. We have a template available to help you plan your procedures, and it's available on the Vernon CMS help website. So on the Vernon CMS help website, you can search for plan procedures, and there's a page that has a downloadable Word template that has a table with these various columns. So let's take a look at that. So you can use this template to plan out your various procedural statuses. And you could say, for example, for the considered item, that the next status is accessioned and also rejected. And for the accessioned status, you might say that some required fields are the accession date, the name, title, the accession number, any other key information that you require. It follows on from the considered item status, and the next status is deaccession. So this is a simple example in the object file, but you could use this to plan out your procedural flow in any of the activity files as well. So that's an overview of procedural control in Vernon CMS. We're more than happy to help you by answering any questions that you have, checking your template. If you want to set something up, you don't need to have memorized what I've shown you. We're more than happy to look at your specific example and give you those step-by-step instructions. Thank you.